We need to go on the YouTube live. So, as the culture of our epitome of knowledge suggests, I humbly welcome all the dignitaries in the inaugural episode of our maiden venture in the field of the faculty development programs. A good commencement marks the true success of any event. To lead the FDP into the realm of success, I would like to invite Dr. Naseem Ahmed, Dean Faculty of Law, in the capacity of the Chairperson FDP, to extend a virtual welcome for the dignitaries and set the tone for the inaugural.
I, Dr. Naseem Ahmed, on behalf of the Faculty of Law, convey my deep regard and sincere welcome to Pro-Chancellor Dr. Syed Naveem Akhtar, Patron-in-Chief of this FDP, and young visionary or source of encouragement. I extend a warm greeting to Vice Chancellor Professor Javed Masarrat, sir, our guiding light and patron of this FDP. Sir is a well-known academician, scientist, and administrator. My proud privilege is to welcome the eminent chief guest, Honorable Justice Mr. Mehboob Khan sir, Chairman JTRI Lucknow and former Judge Allahabad High Court, Allahabad. Sir, I greatly welcome you and express our gratitude for accepting the invitation to grace this inaugural function. My heartfelt gratitude to our guest of honor, Professor Dr. M. Afzal Wani sir, former Dean, Faculty of Legal Studies in First University, New Delhi, and member of Law Commission of India. Professor Wani sir is a renowned personality in the legal field. We are indeed privileged to have among us. I extend warm welcome to our most valued member of the advisory board, who is the visionary source of all the academic and curricular activities of the Integral University. I welcome all the resource persons who have agreed to be the part of our FDP. It has been assumed that the most important resource of any higher education institution is its faculty members, who inculcate knowledge and skill among students. We are currently faced with increasing demand to be creative and effective teachers and productive practitioners. These pressures have been derived from contemporary curriculum development competency in teaching. These changes entitle faculty members attending the new knowledge, diverse skills, and abilities in many aspects of teaching. Faculty members need to be prepared enough by faculty development program to deal with the rapid changes and shifting paradigms in legal education. Without such training, teaching is often reduced to structure presenting their understanding of the subject. The main theme of this FDP is changing paradigms of human rights in globalized world. Human rights are the basic rights and freedom to which all humans are considered entitled: the right to life, liberty, freedom of thought and expression, and equal treatment before the law, among others. These rights represent entitlements of the individual or group vis-à-vis the government and responsibilities of the individual and the government authorities. In an age of globalization, recognizing human dignity and the struggle to protect human rights has become even more complex and challenging. While protection for human rights are increasingly enacted by governments and international bodies like United Nations, grave threats to and gross violations of human rights are also rising, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. I am confident that this faculty development program would help participants learn about new areas of human rights. I again heartily welcome to our patron-in-chief and patron, our today's guest, Honorable Justice Mr. Mehboob Khan sir, and renowned academician Professor M. Bani sir for gracing the occasion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. Quote, whereas the recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all the members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Unquote. The pace with which the world has become a common platform in the field of economics, science, and technology, unification and diversification of cultural standards simultaneously, and not to miss the situation of pandemic, has led to the gross violation of human rights. For the introduction of the theme of the present faculty development program, I would like Ms. Shipra Mishra, Coordinator FDP, to present virtually the concept behind the FDP.
Thank you, ma'am. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. A very good afternoon to all the distinguished faculty development program. With immense pleasure, would like to introduce our first maiden project of utmost importance in present scenario on the theme, Changing Paradigms of Human Rights in the Globalized World. The scheme of a faculty development program is designed to enhance the teaching and other skills of the faculty by making them aware of modern teaching tools and methodologies. It also strives to improve the perception of faculty members, academicians, and research scholars regarding values, education, motivation, excitement for knowledge transformation, and communication skills in relation to the field of human rights law. It intends to enrich and apprise its participants to more innovative teaching techniques and values regarding human rights in a globalized world. Human rights are commonly understood as inalienable fundamental rights to which a person is inherently entitled simply because she or he is a human being, and which are inherent in all human beings regardless of their age, ethnic origin, location, language, religion, or any other status. They are applicable everywhere and at every time in the sense of being universal, and they are egalitarian in the sense of being the same for everyone. COVID-19 pandemic has led to the consequence of a deeper understanding of the different types of obstacles that may stand in the way of realizing the first, second, and third generation rights. In much of the world, conditions such as extreme poverty, war, ecological and natural disasters have meant that there has been only very limited progress in respect of human rights. For these reasons, the need for the recognition of a new category of human rights is necessary. The Faculty of Law Integral University has examined this pandemic situation in relation to the gross violations of human rights, thus organizing this 14 days international faculty development program starting from 6th July to 20th July 2021 with the presence of the leading resource persons across the country. The aim of this program is to deliberate on the serious issues of human rights and changing dimensions of law in a globalized world. Not only this, it also provides an emphatic platform to improve the pedagogy of the human rights law in the present changing circumstances in lieu of the pervasive nature of the law in every sphere of our lives. With this, I would like to end owing my special gratitude to all the dignitaries and resource persons present here who, despite their busy schedules, have spared their time to join us and grace this occasion with their esteemed presence. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Shipra. And we all hope the best for this faculty development program to commence. Now, I am obliged to have our kind and the most important personality, the patron of the faculty development program, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Javed Musarraf. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
सहने चमन को अपनी बहारों पे नाज था, सहने चमन को अपनी बहारों पे नाज था, वो आ गए तो सारी बहारों पे छा गए. Professor Javed Musarraf, sir, Vice Chancellor, Integral University, and patron of the Faculty Development Program, having an impeccable academic background and 29 years of teaching experience, with academic positions like Professor, Dean, and Chairman of Agricultural Microbiology, Faculty of Agricultural Sciences, Aligarh Muslim University, International Professor at King Saud University, Riyadh, Distinguished Adjunct Professor, Department of Biological Sciences, King Abdulaziz University, Jeddah, Visiting Scientist, Michigan State University, Michigan, USA, with such prestigious posts in hand and a tremendous research experience, we, as the manpower of the university, are immensely bestowed with such rich and genuine leadership. Sir, kindly grace us with your encouraging words at the inaugural event of the Faculty Development Program. Sir.
Thank you very much, Seema. I hope my voice is audible there. Is it audible? Is it audible? Seema?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, so Professor Syed Wasim Akhtar, founder, Honorable Chancellor of Integral University and Chief Patron of this 2-week FDP, Professor Syed Nadeem Akhtar, Honorable Pro-Chancellor, Integral University and Patron of FDP, Chief Guest of the function, Honorable Justice Mehboob Ali, Guest of Honor, Professor M. Afzal Wani, Professor Shahid Ali Khan, the Registrar of the University, Dr. Naseem Ahmed, Dean Faculty of Law and Chairperson of FDP, Deans, directors, HODs, faculty members, participants across the nation, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure to be a part of this 2-week international faculty development program on changing paradigms of human rights in a globalized world, being organized by Faculty of Law, Integral University. At the outset, I express my gratitude to Honorable Justice Mahbub Ali for accepting our invitation and gracing the occasion as a chief guest. I am equally thankful to Professor Afzal Wani, Dean, University School of Law and Legal Studies, Indraprastha University, New Delhi, for his gracious presence as guest of honor. It is heartening to know that Professor Wani has also served my alma mater, Aligarh Muslim University, from 1996 to 2000. So friends, we live in 21st century, a century of turmoil and human rights violation. And human rights, therefore, has become a very important issue for every person to survive in this increasingly globalized world. The need and importance for imparting knowledge and awareness about human rights is strongly felt across the world. And every single person is nowadays required to be educated that it is a basic right which is available to any human being by virtue of his birth in human race. So human rights are in fact the standards that allow all people to live with dignity, freedom, justice, equality, without any distinction of race, color, sex, language, religion, nationality, birth, or any other status for that matter. So human rights are essential to the full development of an individual and communities. And in recent times, the human rights issues have emerged in almost every country. And therefore, the United Nations have framed some core principles to be adhered to. Today, there are many established organizations which are nationally and internationally shouldering the responsibility of providing a dignified and contented life to human beings. Fact of the matter is that the societies in which people have access to fundamental social projections, economic resources and opportunities are less vulnerable to social fracture and spread of extremism. Now, as such, in India, the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 defines human right as the rights relating to life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individuals guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants, which are enforceable by court of law in India. India is also signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, all human beings are born free, equal in dignity and rights. Now, when UDHR was adopted, it was not a legal binding, though it carried great moral weight. Therefore, in order to give the human rights which are listed in UDHR the force of law, the UN drafted two very important treaties: the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, referred as ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economics, social and cultural rights, referred as ICESCR, and together the UDHRH, ICCPR, and ICESCR are known as International Bill of Human Rights. So they contain a very comprehensive list of human rights that the government should and must respect, protect, and fulfill. Now, lately, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development sets out a vision for sustainable development grounded in international human rights standards. Now, putting equality and non-discrimination at the center of its efforts, and encompassing not only economic and social rights, but also civil, political, and cultural rights, and of course the right to development. And over 90% of the goals and targets of the SDGs, they correspond to human rights obligations. So the Sustainable Development Goals were agreed unanimously by United Nations member states in 2015. And as we know that they are a set of 17 goals, each with numerous and specific targets, and all to be met by 2030. So the goals ranges from commitment to ending extreme poverty, to providing education for all, to tackling climate change, to achieve gender equality, and to building a strong judicial sector. Now, an important indicator of progress in Sustainable Development Goals is the existence of independent national human rights institutions, which are referred as NHRIs, which comply with international standards known as Paris Principles. And in India, we have several national state human rights institutions which have been created with the aim of protecting human rights and investigating human rights violations, such as National Human Rights Commission, National Commission for Women, National Commission for Protection of Children's Rights, National Commission for Minorities, similarly National Commission for Backward Classes, Scheduled Tribes. Any person who is affected or feels aggrieved can contact and inform the relevant national or state human rights institutions for help on the violations of human rights. So I do hope that this 2-week FDP shall cover all domains of human rights and the changing standards with time at global level. And with these few words, I deeply appreciate the initiative of the Dean, Faculty of Law, and his entire team for conducting the FDP on this very popular topic of general interest. My sincere gratitude to Honorable Justice Mehboob Ali and Professor Muhammad Afzal Wani for their valuable time, and also all distinguished resource persons for their kind consent to share their subject expertise. At the end, I urge to all the attendees to religiously follow the COVID protocols and to actively participate in vaccination drive. Please get yourself and your families vaccinated to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. So stay safe and healthy. Goodbye. Seema.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. Yes, sir.
you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. Yes, sir.
We at Integral
Thank you,
University
sir.
are we at Integral University are encouraged and totally motivated by the strong management we are having. Not to miss our Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, the co-patron in chief of the FDP. He has not been able to join us virtually because of his prior engagements, but has extended his blessings, and it is because of his entire encouragement that here we are sitting and organizing the faculty development program. We are all obliged to the entire management of the Integral University. Thank you all. वाकिफ कहाँ जमाना हमारी उड़ान से है, वाकिफ कहाँ जमाना हमारी उड़ान से है, वो और थे जो हार गए आसमान से. Honorable Mr. Justice Mehboob Ali, former judge, Allahabad High Court. Allahabad was appointed in UP Judicial Services on 9th of August 1985. He was promoted to the Higher Judicial Service on May 5th, 2001, and has presided the courts of Additional District and Sessions Judge in different districts. He has also functioned as the Special Secretary and Additional LR, Legislative and Parliamentary Affairs, OSD, UP State Legal Services Authority, and as OSD Shamli. He has a vast experience of working in judicial and administrative domain. His Lordship was the Director, Judicial Training and Research Institute, UP, with effect from 16th of September 2014 to 30th November 2016. Thereafter, His Lordship got elevated as Judge Allahabad High Court, Allahabad on 7th of July 2017 and served at Allahabad up to 10th of November 2018. His Lordship is adorning the august office of Chairman, Judicial Training and Research Institute, UP, with effect from 22nd of August 2019 till date. Sir, immense pleasure to be sharing the virtual dais with you. Kindly adorn us with your inspirational words.
Thank you, Professor Seema. Professor Syed Wasim Akhtar, the Chancellor, Dr. Syed Nadeem Akhtar, Pro-Chancellor, and Professor Jabir Musawwar, Vice Chancellor of the Integral University. Professor Dr. M. Afzalwani, Dr. Naseem Ahmad, Faculty of Law, the Registrar, respected coordinators of the program, esteemed faculty, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. As you all know, the world is facing an unprecedented crisis. Public health emergency is central to this crisis. It requires a global response. The priority is to save lives. The public health crisis is fast becoming an economic and social crisis and a human rights crisis. COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the vulnerability of the least protected in the society. Women and men, children, youth and elder persons, refugees, migrants, poor people and persons with disabilities and persons in detention and many others, all are being affected differently. We have an obligation to ensure that everyone is protected and included in the response to this crisis. Let me share with you that 3 rights are at the front line in the current pandemic. Right to life, right to health, and access to health care, and the big challenge to freedom of movement. Here, let me share with you that as per the paper published by the United Nations in April 2020, for more than 2.2 billion people across the world, washing their hands regularly is not an option because they have inadequate access to water. For another 1.8 billion people in the world, they are homeless or either have inadequate housing or overcrowded housing. So, physical distancing for them is a pipe dream. Limits on individual freedom by way of travel restrictions, quarantines, compulsory isolation, and prohibitions on public gatherings may amount to deprivation of liberty and fundamental human rights. But it is necessary to give priority to promote public health as a common good over protecting individual freedom. You are all aware that long-term interests are to be given precedence over short-term interests. There seems to be an official consensus that human health takes primacy over human rights. To show compassion, the human rights during this difficult time of pandemic, the government has caused advisories from time to time to private companies and entities for to desist from job cuts, pay cuts, as also the full pay to contractual workers. Many countries, including India, have shown their concerns towards human rights by making provisions of emergency water supplies to slum areas, suspension of housing evictions from unpaid rent during this crisis, support to preserve jobs and wages, securing emergency shelters for the homeless people, and expanding domestic violence responses for the victim of abuse, and more so providing child care for essential service workers. We all know that human rights, as they are the basic rights, and they are enjoyed by each and every individual by virtue of being born as a human. So these human rights need to be protected in all the situations. Human right is a concept that has been constantly evolving throughout the human history. Most societies follow the tradition similar to the golden rule. I quote, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This concept is reflected in the olden thoughts of the Indian sages and sociologists. One such thought is, I quote, Atmanam Pratikulani Paresham Na Samacharet, unquote, which means that an act which you do not like to be done to you, do not do that to others. And that is the basic foundation of whatever we call the protection and preservation of human rights. The Vedas, the Babylonian Code of Hammurabi, the Bible, the Quran, and the Analects of Confucius are five of the oldest written sources which address questions of people's duties, rights, and responsibilities. According to Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, I quote, all humanity is one undivided and indivisible family, and each one of us is responsible for the misdeeds of all others. I cannot detach myself from the wickedest soul. Unquote. The preamble of United Nations Charter declared its object to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights. Present-day international legal instruments such as Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and European Convention of Human Rights 1953 are some of the examples which reflect the largely developed character of human rights jurisprudence. Basically, we talk about three generations of human rights. But now, with big economic political and social advancements globally, we have proceeded towards fourth, fifth, and sixth generation of human rights. The division of human rights into three generations was initially proposed way back in 1979 by the Czech jurist Karl Vasak. His division followed the three watchwords of French Revolution: liberty, equality, and fraternity. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development reminds us, I quote, the spread of information and communication technology and global interconnectedness has great potential to accelerate human progress. Unquote. India being a signatory to Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we have incorporated all such rights as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948 and ICCPR and other international covenants. We have incorporated such rights in Part 3rd of our Constitution as fundamental rights. Now let us have a quick look at the growth of human rights through judicial pronouncements. Sheila Barse versus State of Maharashtra, directions were issued that female prisoners be kept in female lockups guarded by female constables. As you all know, that a public interest litigation was filed by a journalist, Sheila Barse. Then Sunil Batra versus Delhi Administration 1979. In this case, right to protection against solitary confinement was issued and reaffirmed. Charles Obraj versus Superintendent Central Jail 1978, right not to be held in fetters. TV Vataswaran versus State of Tamil Nadu 1983, the right against handcuffing. Neelapati Behera versus State of Odisha 1993, the right against custodial violence. D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal 1997 and A.K. Jolly versus State of UP 1997. They talk about the rights of ST persons. As you all know that Vishakha and Apparel Export Promotion Council cases, they speak of the protection of female workers, female employees against sexual harassment at the workplace. In Subhash Kumar versus State of Bihar 1991, the apex court held that the right to pollution-free water and air is also a facet of Article 21 of the Constitution. In Don Valley case, the court held that it is within the ambit of Article 21 that clean environment and permanent assets of mankind cannot be allowed to be exhausted. In Khalak Singh versus State of UP, the apex court held that life means more than mere animal existence. In D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal, 1997, Honorable the Supreme Court highlighting torture as abominable violation of human rights. The word deliberately has been used, abominable. Honorable the Court observed, I quote, torture of a human being by another human being is essentially an instrument to impose the will of the strong over the weak. Torture is a wound in the soul so painful that sometimes you can almost touch it, but it is also so intangible that there is no way to heal it. Torture is despair and fear and rage and hate. It is a desire to kill and destroy, including yourself. Unquote. An eminent jurist said that compassion for human beings would be at its best when the last and the least person is liberated. Further, in PK FK Wadia versus Union of India 2009, noise pollution is violative of Article 14 and 21 of the Constitution. SS Mehtre versus State of Maharashtra, It was held that irrational and indiscriminate arrests are gross violation of human rights. In Hussain Ara Khatun versus State of Bihar 1976, Kadra Pahadia versus State of Bihar 1981, A.R. Antule versus R.S. Nayak, the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court in 1992, and in Katina of cases, Honorable the Apex Court has laid much emphasis on the speedy disposal of cases of under trial prisoners. Further, in case Puttaswamy versus Union of India, which is known as a right to privacy case, Honorable Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandchud laid down the tests that would need to be satisfied under the Constitution for violations of privacy to be justified. This includes the test of proportionality to ensure a rational nexus between the objects and the means adopted to achieve them. Honorable Supreme Court has issued guidelines regarding arrest and detention through various judgments such as Jogendra Kumar and D.K. Basu, and recently more comprehensive guidelines have been issued by the Apex Court in Arunesh Kumar versus State of Bihar 2014. And Honorable, the court is continuously monitoring this case regarding the compliance of the guidelines in relation to arrest and detention, in what cases the accused should not be arrested, and if at all it is quite necessary in law to arrest an accused a person, then the arresting person has to follow a great deal of compliance of guidelines, and a checklist is to be provided to him. He has to make a complete compliance of the checklist, then only he can arrest. And regarding detention also, Honorable the Supreme Court has given comprehensive guidelines that this and these guidelines are to be complied with in spirit, later in spirit, than to detain any person in prison. So, these direction after Arnesh Kumar, in recontagion of COVID-19 virus in prison 2020 and 2021, all these guidelines are being continuously monitored for their compliance, and these directions need to be complied with in letter and spirit by the police, the judiciary, and the prison authorities, so as to ensure preservation and protection of human rights. We have human rights commissions, national human rights commission in every state, state human rights commissions. We have human rights acts in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Also, we have a human rights act. We have human rights courts. We have a special public prosecutors to conduct the cases of human rights. But still, much has to be done. Much is required to be done. And in this area, the role of legal education is of great significance. Legal education has a vital role to play in the development and protection of human rights. Universities and other educational institutions are under a pious duty to play their proactive and sensitized roles in this regard. What I feel is that judicial ethics, the canons of judicial ethics and human rights are the subjects which are long waiting to find their place in the syllabus of legal education, which I feel that it is yet to be done. Legal education, the sensitization programs on human rights should be held in universities and law colleges on regular basis. The legal aid clinics running in the universities need to be extensively used. I hope that every university and law college have legal aid clinics under the provisions of National Legal Services Authorities Act and the Legal Services Authorities Act, rather, under which National Legal Service Authority and state legal services authorities have been established. So I feel that every university and the law college have a legal aid clinic. The good offices of legal aid clinic must be extensively used for spreading the legal awareness, and that way, in coordination with the concerned district legal services authority, you can contribute a great deal in legal assistance and free legal aid as enshrined under Article 39A of the Constitution of India. And this will go a long way to protect one of the most precious human rights, that is the right to access to justice. Universities and colleges have the potential to produce young, inquisitive, and sensitized minds in the field of human rights so that they may effectively enforce and protect human rights when they become judges, lawyers, academicians, and over that and above as responsible citizens of the country. I congratulate the dignitaries of the university, the organizers, and the coordinators for organizing this very significant program on human rights as a part of International Faculty Development Program of the university. I wish the program a great success. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And sir, as per your very recommendation and the things what you have suggested, I am having pride in informing you that Faculty of Law at Integral University is having an active legal aid clinic. And as a part of our curriculum, we do organize the legal aid camps. And recently, only the entire faculty, because of the pandemic situation, selected students had gone and organized a legal aid camp in the nearby village. So
That's
we
very
are continuously in this span of short span of 5 years, we are continuously engaging ourselves and the students in such kind of practical legal activities to enrich their experiences.
thank you, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. रौनके बज़्म रौनके बज़्म नहीं था कोई तुझसे पहले रौनके बज़्म नहीं था कोई तुझसे पहले रौनके बज़्म तेरे बाद नहीं है कोई. Professor Dr. Afzal Wani, sir. Words are less to define the aura of the magnanimous legal scholar. Professor of Law and Dean University School of Law and Legal Studies, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. The list of accomplishments is exhaustive enough. Being the member of the 19th Law Commission, Delhi Legal Services Authority, panelist on Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha TV and All India Radio, law teaching and research experience of 30 years, author of 13 books and 80 research papers. His experience is such where every academician dreams to reach for. Thank you, sir. Thank you for gracing our maiden event. Kindly bless us with your inspirational words for the successful commencement of the FDP.
Thank you. I do find it a great pleasure to be with Honorable Mr. Justice Mahbub Ali, a very great judge and so academic in his expressions. I'm really feeling thrilled that we should have such academic judges in judiciary. And then we have a very experienced and well-known academic, Professor Javed Masarat. He has been a vice chancellor for more than a decade, I believe, and has brought laurels not only to himself but to the institutions which he served the best. And we have a lot of respect for his endeavors, for his efforts, for attaining the objectives of the institutions. I think it's very great. And he has his admirers across the nation and maybe across the borders as well. Then maybe in absentia, Syed Wasim Akhtar, Chancellor, and Said Nadeem Akhtar, Pro Vice Chancellor. And at the same time, I should mention Dean also, Professor Naseem Ahmed, and Professor Akil PVC, and Junaid and Shipra. I think the theme is very exciting. Changing paradigms of human rights in globalizing world. When I see it from my angle, I don't look to it just for the last few decades or from 1995, when formally we started reglobalizing the world. I think that it has to be seen. If you go to the changing expression, changing should not be taken as changing in 1995. Then the understanding will be lopsided. It won't be a correct understanding. And at the most, I can say that by this, a person may have just a partial view of globalizing. But when it is the question of a teacher's faculty development program, I think he has to look to the infinity, from infinity to infinity, where the things have begun and we don't know where they shall end. So we have to go deep into the history and then look for the things, how things change, how academics changes, and how teachers' perspectives have changed, how their methods have changed. Because ultimately, teacher is also, producing a product. I want to have the best product. You want to have a very good product and from the market. Ultimately, the teacher is producing somebody. He is his product. Whether he becomes then a teacher, an engineer, a judge, a medical doctor, or anything, or an astronaut, whatever, that's his product. How excellent it is. I think that should be in the mind of the teacher. And then that enrichment can come to a trainer only when he has a view of multiple, changing this steps in history. What were the things earlier? What were the motivations later? What were the factors after that? And how we reach it to this level of intelligence. And now beyond human intelligence, when we get to artificial intelligence, so there will be so many paradigms you will have. It will be a spectrum rather than just from starting from 1995 onwards. And even in independent India, it's 1947 or 1950 onwards, you will see that we have had changing in perspectives, in thought, in understanding, in action. We did have a difference. You can very sharply look to it, and especially a teacher who is trying to become the best in human rights has to have deeper insights into the thinking, into understanding, into action, as Emile Durkheim would describe, a social fact, as a feeling, as thinking and acting. Feeling is very important. How you feel, you have to make the student uh, you know uh, feel how he feels, because things will start from there. And if it is the question of human rights, how he feels about human rights, if he fails to have the feel of it, then how can he do it? He cannot think about it. And then you have to give him the way of thinking, how he should think. And then ultimately you can ensure that he can act, because the teacher will not be with the student for all times. The student may be with him for one semester in human rights. He may be with him for 2 years in a program, or 5 years as LLB, like that. After that, he has to do it on his own. And that's how you have to, when you will look at it, that how people were making, their students, maybe prophets, avatars, or anybody, when they were in the capacity of the teachers. And if you look to revealed knowledge, that how the revelation is coming and makes a person feel, it makes a person understand, it makes a person think, and then ultimately he learns how to act. And here is a caution, that there are factors which are leading human mind this way, that way, negativity, positivity, betterment, and sometimes you can find that there are very bad and worst horrendous situations which humanity has faced, where from they have come. And ultimately, as a teacher, as a professor, you have to take all these things as a blame upon yourself. I know that you are not the person who has trained all those who brought misery to the human beings at different stages of life, at different stages of humanity. But we have to be conscious of it, that why a particular person, a group of persons, or anybody in power, in authority, how he was thinking, what were the factors which made him to bring that misery to humanity, why he could not think, why he could not take another line of thought, why he could not take another line of action. So a teacher, whether he is a teacher as we today are, or he is an atalik, or he is a guru, or he is like a murshid, or he is like an avatar, or like a prophet, or anybody, whatever. I think he has to be conscious of these things, and that's how judging, understanding the paradigms becomes very important. If we look to the modern history or the latest version of human rights, I would not say it began with Magna Carta. I'll say it has begun much before. It has existed. The thought has existed earlier also. I have some understanding of this Islamic history. I believe 600 years before Magna Carta. Magna Carta came in 1215. And I can say in this 615, 620, 630, there came the directives from the revealed knowledge which was being revealed in Mecca and Medina. They had a program of human rights. They did talk of human rights. They had a mission of human rights. And that's very prominent one. And might be, we can say it was its influence that influenced Europe. And the Europeans understood what is dignity, what's human dignity, as in Quran it is said, "Walakat karamna bani Adam." God says, "I have given dignity to the human being. I have given respect to the human being." So that's a message that has been the influencing factor. And then it was after another 600 years that Magna Carta came, when there was a treaty, an agreement between barons and King John of England. And there was an agreement that he gave certain concessions to the people. He accepted certain rights of the people. And later on, if you critically read that history, you'll find he was giving and taking, giving and taking. That was a very miserable kind of situation. And though ultimately they succeeded in having later on in 1669 the English Bill of Rights, and then you could have that American Declaration of Independence, American Bill of Rights, French Declaration of Rights of Man during French Revolution you had. And still, after that much, after hundreds and hundreds of years of war in Europe, still they fought after that the First World War. And after such a devastation, they still fought the Second World War. And then after the Second World War, when their minds, their conscience was shaken, and they thought of giving some peace to the world. But how could you give peace to the world? The peace can be given to the world when human mind is at peace. And how can human mind be at peace? That when we give human being a dignity. And that dignity is reflected only when you accept the rights of a particular human. And that's how an effort was made through the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 to develop a cooperative, rights-oriented humanity across the globe, not at one place. And that's what you have always heard of it, that injustice anywhere, where is injustice everywhere. That's if you leave somewhere injustice to happen, you cannot live with peace. You cannot respect others' human rights. You cannot have a human rights regime otherwise. So that's why I would say that even if you don't go very deep. Sometimes I say, what was the relationship between Krishna and Sudama, for example? Do you think of what could be the psychological aspect of it? What could be the actual spiritual aspect of it? What could be the social aspect of it? Are you trying to understand? Are you trying to reconcile? Can you build on that? Even if you are not, okay, you are not going too much to other things, but can't you see that harmony? That the spirit of harmony, where from you can build it somewhere. That's the paradigm. And you can see, if you look to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where from the harmony is coming between the Prophet Muhammad and Bilal, Umar and Bilal. He says Sayyidana. That's a paradigm. And later on, what were the factors which made King John to accept the dignity of the barons. Barons, as we have different kinds of caste people here and there, uh, not necessarily with lower and upper caste, but different racial groups. And like that, he had to accept what were the influences that has to be understood. And then later on, how the rights of the Americans were accepted and they adopted their own constitution. They had its amendments, and the first 10 amendments constitute the American Bill of Rights. What is in them? That is to be seen. They reflect that what was happening, and accordingly a right was accepted. For example, I would say that the legislature shall not make any religion. It shall not legislate. It shall not give any that kind of. It shall not impose anything like that. It shall not, curb in any way the freedom of press. So that means the situation has been around such, and that's how the rights have been accepted. That's a paradigm which was existing at that time. And later on, we find when we reach it to the Second World War, I'll again say that human rights, this declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, came at that time. We have to understand what was happening in the world at that time, what had happened during the First World War, when this humanity has elevated and it has reached to a very civilized state, why it is not able to stop the happenings like this discriminations, hate, and other things which led to, or any kind of vanities which led to First World War and the Second World War. And then after that, now we have adopted a program. We established a very good institution in the form of United Nations, and most of the countries have subscribed to it, and they have accepted it, and they are associated with its programs. We have to see the changing paradigm even in that I should say in minute details, that how during 1950s things were happening, how during 1960s things were happening, how after decade and decade things were happening. That has to be seen so that we prepare our student who will be tomorrow's professor, tomorrow's judge, tomorrow's diplomat, tomorrow's this minister, tomorrow's bureaucrat. We have to prepare his mind from that point of view and then infuse that element of humanity. How can we make him think with some sensitivity for another human being? Otherwise, we cannot actually build a global system where human being will be at comfort, at peace, enjoying human rights, or be caring for others, which is the basic purpose of human rights. Or to have peace in the world, we can't have it. And for that purpose, I'll also say that when we talk of human rights, you should take this help from literature also. For example, we are having Tagore, we are having Swami Vivekananda, we are having Premchand, we are having Ghalib, we are having so many others. I think they have a lot to say about human feelings, understanding, sufferings, and then they also give some vision also that how we must proceed ahead. And that's how I believe that when we look to the changing paradigms of human rights, we have to be very focusing on these things, and we have not to be only with certain literature which has been produced. We may read a convention, we may read some kinds of provisions of law. No, that cannot do that. That may be for examination purposes, but actually, how we are able to develop, promote a human being who will be tomorrow a very good vehicle, an instrument in advancing the human rights. So, all to all the teachers of law and human rights, otherwise, I would like to say that you have to open your minds to all the streams of thought, and then in posterity, in appropriary, and then what's around, what you see, what is written, what is unwritten, everything, whatever is happening, that has to be seen, analyzed, understood. You'll find not only the generations of human rights as first, second, third. You will also, you may find all those generations in one go, and all those kinds of sufferings. You may find King John, and you may find other people who are very tormentors, and who are not respecting human rights. You may find just in one period, just in one incident, you may find what's happening, why it is happening, what is the cause, and then what can be the remedy, how we should promote a humanity with really, this better betterment of the human world. And then globalizing should not be merely the globalizing of the trade. I would say we have to understand this paradigm also. It's not that globalization is that we'll promote trade and all that. And generally, the focus of anybody, whenever they talk of globalization, they talk of trade, international trade, and then various treaties about it. But there is a lot, even in existing international conventions and treaties, there is a lot related to human rights. There is a lot about social development. There is a lot about educational development. There is a lot about this promotion of health. But the focus is unfortunately most on the trade, and development is taken as the development of trade. And actually, it is that kind of lopsided approach which has been adopted, led to this pandemic situation, and failure to deal with it. Because everybody was after this paradigm of globalizing through trade and trade and trade, not globalizing through human values. And when you will look to your own self around, you will not only find the goods to be exported, you will also find some values. And those values have to be internationalized. Those values have to be projected. If you fail in that, that means you are failing your nation. If you fail in showing to the world a better value, better face, better behavior, better humanizing factors, then you are not doing good to the nation. Maybe you are tomorrow economically a very sound nation, but I think if one value is shown to the world, that will be having more influence. And that's how I would say nobody has said so far that wealth is power. They've always said knowledge is power. So, what a teacher has to do, he has to be very inquisitive. He has to be very probing. He has to be very analyzing, and then analyze the situation. Research must be done just for this thing, that how I shall get the pearls, the ideas from happenings around, from history, from futuristic vision, and then promote them and present them to the world. And that's how you can uh, get to a new paradigm which you will shape. It's not necessary. We are generally in the habit of quoting few people. I'm not against that. That's good because they serve with Lord Dennings, maybe Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jerome Frank. Others, they did a lot. But I believe that we are failing in promoting ideas relevant to our existing situations, from the situations within which we are facing. And once you fail in it, you fail as a teacher, because you have to take the student to the situation around. As I was saying earlier, he has to feel with the situation. He has to make opinion with reference to the situation. He has to feel the pain which is happening in the society. He has to, share the happiness or sorrow, whatever is around. And then he will be a brilliant teacher. And then he will relate the theories, he will relate the law, he will relate the judgments of the courts with it. And that's how, when we, for example, we read Justice Krishna Iyer, what we find in him, he is relating things to the situation. He is very much apt in getting the feel of the suffering of somebody, and he is projecting it. And that's how I would say, if Justice Bhagwati could promote the idea of legal aid through different judgments, and it's during probably in that period when this Legal Service Authorities Act was enacted in 1987. He himself, when he was looking to it, he connected the things with the society. And I think he was the student of a very great jurist in the country, Asghar Ali Faizi, Professor Asghar Ali Faizi. And might be Faizi had given him some that sensitivity, some thought. It's not necessary that he must have taught him all the subjects in his degree. No, sometimes you meet a person for 5 minutes and he tells you something which is very attractive and it influences your life. And I believe that this Faizi, he was very inquisitive, he was very analytical, and he was academically very sound. And I believe that when that kind of sensitivity you will create in your students, wish that I have a student like Justice Bhagwati, desire I have a student like Justice Krishna Iyer. You aspire for it. I have a student like Justice this D.Y. Chandrachud, for example, as today you may talk of him. And then I think it was a very great kind of thing to see that this legal aid jurisprudence developed in this country, though it has not still gone, in my understanding, even 10% ahead. Though I was associated with Delhi Legal Service Authority for more than 2 decades, but I still find that we have not given a feel of it. Today, a needy person does not feel confident that I must not worry for a lawyer. He must feel confident, even if he has no money, even if he has no access, he must have a feel that no, a pro bono support is going to come to me from the state, from district authority, from state authority, or from a very philanthropic lawyer or an advocate. There should be chains of it. And that's what I'm trying to say, that it is possible only when things happen like that. And even those lawyers or others who are spending in philanthropy here and there, I think they should spend a lot in creating that sensitivity. And that sensitivity is basically about the changing mood, changing paradigm, changing situation. When a human being is suffering, somebody is killed unfairly, unjustly, without any kind of trial, without any kind of consideration of the situations, and at the same time somebody is made to suffer when he is not proved guilty. Then so many things are there. Where from the ideas will come? Where from the human beings will come? I think they have to come from those who believe in Lord Ram. They have to come from those who believe in Lord Buddha. They have to come from those who believe in Krishna, who gave a dictation of attaining good to Arjuna. I believe they have to come from the followers of Khaja Garib Nawaz. They have to come from others and Guru Nanak. They have to come from there. They have to come with those sensitivities. You have to integrate in integral university. You have to integrate spiritual resources, mundane resources, economic resources, and all these thoughts into one, and then look to them from a human rights perspective, which will be your paradigm of human rights. It shall not be that which is quite mechanical, in the sense that you will go by technicalities only. No, it should go with a feeling in heart and mind, understanding where from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has come. We cannot go by the mere letter of the law. We cannot go, if when people were going by the letter of Article 21, it was not a good support to a human. When people got to its history, when people got to its purpose, when people got to its philosophy, when people got to its contribution, what it can make to the Indian citizen, you can find Article 20 became so big, and that's how it got the place in the hearts of the judges. And once earlier Chief Justice late Adarsh Sen Anand, he was speaking in one of the programs in Indian Law Institute, and he said Justice Iyer was very ill once, and many judges were moving in the corridor of the hospital. And then when Justice Sen, he went inside and then came back, every judge went to him and said, "What is the problem?" He said, "There is a problem." And doctor says there is something in the heart of Krishna Iyer. And every judge asked, "What is in his heart?" They felt maybe a clot or like that. He said, "There is Article 21 in his heart." The Article 21, when it was got, practically what it means. This is, if you take it with the spirit of Bible, if you take it with the spirit of human dignity, if you take it with the spirit of, giving honor to the last starving person in this country, last illiterate person in this country, I think, then only you can come out of your chamber. You can come out of your traditional thinking. You can come out of your artificial, this dividing the society in different rungs. You'll come out and then say, yes, now we are the people who have to reshape the world, who have to reshape the nation in human rights perspective. We have to be in search of that paradigm with all what I was trying to say. And I assure you that if you believe in anybody as God, he will not like any other paradigm in your mind. He will like only one. Are you working for human dignity? And that also for that human being who has no other support around, who has no other person around. And that's how I know that Dean Saab wants me to stop, because he has to, then carry forward the things. But I would say that, dear teachers, develop the confidence of developing your own paradigm. You are a teacher, you are independent, your thought should be give first liberty to yourself, liberty to think. Give to yourself the liberty of expression, and then face any of the theorists and tell him, my country needs this paradigm. My country needs this model for teaching. My country needs this procedure for attaining justice. My country needs this kind of system of governance. And you have shaped it anywhere and you are imposing here, no, I can't do it. And therefore, you have to prepare the mind to work on the ground in accordance with the paradigm which you have perceived and understood. And there can be also differences from district to district, state to state, from group to group, and accordingly, the best, if a nation wants really to be human rights oriented, then I think the law teachers will have to be given the liberty to think. They have to be respected. Their problems should be addressed, and then they can be very good legal aid supporters, advancement, legal awareness they can create. They can create that sensitivity which is required. They can provide the best resources to the world, that how they will advance the human rights. And then I would say trade paradigm of human rights is very good, but trade should be really philanthropic. Trade should address the other issues, and then the gain which you are making from the people, that should be given back to them in different forms, and their literacy, their health, other things should be advanced. And then I'll end up by saying one thing, that when you make huge profits out of trade, international trade, how much of that you are spending in promoting peace in the world? How much you are spending in promoting peace diplomacy in the world? Because peace diplomacy is the human rights paradigm today, that there has not to be a trickery. Diplomacy has not to be a trickery. Diplomacy has to be a harmonic peace developing process in the world. And that's how there should be brought a peace to the world, and teachers shall have to teach it in the same way. And that's how. And I believe that Honorable Justice Mahbub Ali, he was very academic, and he gave many things from the developments and in this Indian judiciary. And Indian judiciary has made a very good contribution, but I believe that has to be analyzed, understood, and what were the factors behind, and judges in a situation. But then the academic has to analyze it. Academic has to suggest. And once Justice V. Sujata Manohar of Supreme Court, she told me, Vani Sahab, unless somebody tells us what we have done, we have given the judgment. And she was a very open-minded judge of the Supreme Court. She said, no, we should have the comments. We should have some kind of analysis of the judgments, so that you know how it develops, how it promotes. And that's how that's what you have to do, that you have to give a feedback to the judge also, with due respect, with the attaining without any kind of that harming in any way. Anybody may say, so many people say that why shouldn't we criticize the judge and all that. I always say that, see, you do it, but you have to do it in a different way. The different way is that if there is a mosquito on my hand here, I will do it like this. But if the mosquito is on your nose, will you do it in the same way? We'll do it differently. We'll do it with modesty. We'll do it with respect. You will try to, behave differently. So whenever you are commenting on anything about judiciary is the face, it's the mind, it's the conscience of the nation. And therefore, when you have to address it, but don't leave without analyzing it. Analyze it with decency, and you have to tell to the judge that there are still certain corners where you have to go. You have to be practically in the chair for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And I have to be in my mind as an analyst for so many hours a day. And then there can be that kind of intellectual coordination between judiciary, between academics, and then it can trickle down to police forces, enforcement agencies, and others, and maybe traders also, and you can develop a very good human rights regime in the world. So with these words, I would thank Professor Javed Masarat Saab, and then Justice Mahbub has been very, very academic, and Dean and Seema Siddiqui said good things about me. Grateful to you. सभी लोग अपनी तारीफ से खुश हो जाते हैं. But I think there is a lot that could be done, and in the given situation, something has to be done, and that's how I believe. I wish that Integral University shows the path of integrity, to the world, and I believe they can do it. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you. Again, I would thank Professor Javed Masarat Saab and Justice Mahbub has been very, very academic, and Dean and Seema Siddiqui said good things about me. Grateful to you. सभी लोग अपनी तारीफ से खुश हो जाते हैं. But I think there is a lot that could be done, and in the given situation, something has to be done, and that's how I believe. I wish that Integral University shows the enforcement agency and integrally trade words, and I believe it's a very good contract. Thank you so much.
So obviously, it's a fact that the teachers have to be conscious enough with regard with regard for the basic development of the curriculum, and the way you have suggested and the way you have given the changing paradigms of the human rights. obviously that is remarkable. Just in a very popular quote of Ghalib sir, हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत लेकिन हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत लेकिन दिल को खुश रखने को गालिब ये ख्याल अच्छा है.
अच्छा है.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inspiring words. We are hoping that you would be giving us the technical session in just a matter of time. But before that, I just have to complete the formalities of the inaugural session.
And also my salam and sincere regards to Justice Mahmood Ali sir and Wani sir. Thank you very much, in fact, for your gracious presence.
Sir,
thank you, sir.
I'm starting with the program. The courtesy demands recognition and appreciation. For this, I would like to invite our flawlessly energetic convener of the Faculty Development Program, Dr. Mirza Junaid Beg, to propose a vote of thanks for the inaugural function.
Thank you, ma'am. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. A very good afternoon to all of you. In the wake of globalization, which has come to stay, there is a growing concern among masses of being left out and deprived of its gains. The sense of injustice, inequality looms large. It has to be taken care of by all of us alike before it becomes lethal like coronavirus. In the age of where recognition and protection of human rights are considered supreme, Indus Valley civilization is a reflection of our long cherished philosophy of Vasudev Kutumbakam, that is the whole world is one single family. That's why today we call the whole world as a global village. Dignified human existence is our prime value, and this approach acts as a catalyst in initiating the deliberation and setting the agenda for the International Faculty Development Program on changing paradigms of human rights in a globalized world. A Thanksgiving is a time for feeling gratitude, a maiden initiative where the patience, labor, and multitask capacity of the organizers could be well seen and appreciated. The success of the event is dependent upon the blessing and accolades of the guests invited and our well-wishers. In the capacity of the convener of the International Faculty Development Program, I, Mirza Junaid Beg, thank you all. Our patron, Professor Javed Musarraf sir, respected Vice Chancellor, Integral University, on behalf of the entire team, we offer a heartfelt thanks for your gracious virtual presence and time out of your busy schedule. Now, the judiciary is the protector and guardian of the grand norms of respective countries. Kingdoms are seen falling apart where judiciary has failed to contribute to effective governance. I would like to thank our chief guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Mahbub Ali sir, who graced us with his thought-provoking and motivational words of wisdom. I'm sure the participants present here will have a lot to take away from this inaugural session. We all are inspired by your great words, sir. Now, our guest of honor is the epitome of knowledge for any law student, Professor Dr. M. Afzal Wani, sir. Your synchronous presence is enough for all the legal scholars to gather gold from the sawdust. Thank you, sir, for granting. I would like to thank our HOD, sir, Dr. Naseem Ahmed, sir, for all words of wisdom that radiated a source of energy within us. Heartfelt thanks goes to all our faculty members for their enormous cooperation in organization of this event. Now, we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated students, coordinators. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for showing their interest in this program. Now, I would like to conclude vote of thanks with a couplet. उठो ये मंजरे शब्ताब देखने के लिए, उठो ये मंजरे शब्ताब देखने के लिए, कि नींद शर्त नहीं ख्वाब देखने के लिए. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Acha, thank you, Judge Saab. It was so great. Very good learning. Very great.
Thank you so much. I think now this entire episode is
inaugural
over.
session. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. Meeting all of you. I had a great opportunity to meet all the dignitaries of the university and Dr. Professor Afzal Wani, a great personality, great academician. Thank you so much. Inshallah,
Thank you,
we'll
sir.
meet again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Sir,
much.
Inshallah.
sir, before, please, sir, just a moment, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, all of you.
We are requesting for a snapshot, sir, so that all the dignitaries can have at a common platform. We are requesting for a snapshot. So kindly, HOD, sir, our Vice Chancellor, sir, has exited, I suppose. The Vice Chancellor, sir. Vice Chancellor, sir.
He must have left.
Kindly stream, if Vice Chancellor, sir, is there, kindly stream him. Okay, sir. All the available dignitaries, we would be having a snapshot with our student coordinators and the faculty involved here. So kindly open your cameras.
It's over now.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सब लोग का, sir.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. So we can leave now, huh? Okay.
So we would be joining in the technical session.
Yes, okay.
As per your consent, within
should I
15 minutes
continue?
or how much time, sir?
Will you have a break or we continue?
Yes, sir.
Will you have a break
So
or
15 minutes we would be joining for the technical session within 15 minutes.
Okay, ठीक है. So we
If it's
can
okay with you.
exit.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.